good to have you with us in this edition of the Urban Debate. Today, at the Punjab-Haryana border, we saw dramatic scenes unfold. Farmers who were marching, hundreds of them, up in arms against the centre's new farm laws, marching towards Delhi, even calling this protest Delhi Chalo, were blocked at the Punjab-Haryana border itself. The BJP-ruled state of Haryana put barricades, multiple layers of security and barricades to ensure that the farmers are not able to cross over and continue their march to the national capital. More than a month-long agitation against the centre's farm new laws, where we've seen rail roko, all kinds of protests on the streets of Punjab, now culminating into this massive call of Delhi Chalo Andolan. And there are various farmer groups now, not just from Punjab, we are told, but also from Delhi and Uttar Pradesh and Haryana. Farmers have been demanding that the new farm laws be rolled back, or the centre at least clarify on a few of their concerns, including the MSP. Today, what we saw was unfortunate, though. Police having to use water cannons and tear gas shells to disperse the protesting farmers. The fact that the reason being given was COVID, and Section 144 being put in or entry being blocked, collection of people being stopped in the name of a pandemic is also disappointing. Not because it's incorrect, but because it's selective in its usage. The same laws are forgotten when political parties hold their rallies. Same laws are forgotten when convoys of politicians travel through mingling with crowds. Same laws are actually forgotten when celebrations are held for election victories at political party headquarters. But when it comes to our farmers and our Kisan, who simply are raising their voice and agitating, these laws have been brought back. Because we've had a lot of debates about the farm laws. We've gone into the details. We've shown you both sides of the concerns and what the response is and whether those concerns can be considered legitimate or not. We've had a whole host of experts talking to us about that. Tonight, I want to take it a step further and ask this question. Are the farmers now being pushed and egged on by political parties? Are the farmers being misled? Are they really angry and agitated and doing this of their own will? When the central government has said that, come, let's talk, then why is this protest not being called off? When the farmers in Punjab gave a 15-day window to the central government to hold conversations, and the central government has accepted that, then why do we have to witness this protest? Is it politics? Or is there more? Could we have avoided this scenario? This kind of now crowds building up, tension building up in times of a pandemic at the state's borders. Look at those visuals. It's a law and order issue. There was stone pelting at a few places, barricades being overthrown in such a manner. The cops had to resort to using tear gas shells. Let's in fact get you the latest on ground. Priyank and Alok are joining me on this story. Priyank is actually at the National Highway in Sonipat. Priyank, what's the situation there where you are? Take us through the details.
See, Tanvi, all these farmers have stopped or approximately 25 kilometers away from the location where we are stuck because of these heavy, concrete boxes, blocks which have been kept by the Haryana police, and they have also chained them up so that it will be difficult for the farmers to push them away. There is no light which clearly shows that the Haryana police is also not in the mood to have any kind of confrontation with the farmers. The latest update which we got, that farmers have given an announcement that they will stay over at the Panipat and Sonipat Toll Plaza, and in the morning after having breakfast, they will again move towards the national capital. The national capital would be approximately 55 to 60 kilometers away from the location where they are standing. And but what is very shocking is that the theatrics which is happening, the police officials very well know, the state administration very well know that since the farmers have managed to cross the other barricaded area where these boulders and these concrete box was placed, still this kind of thing is being done to delay the movement of these farmers. The Delhi police is also on a standby mode. They are also keeping a close watch on these farmers. But so far tonight it's gonna be peaceful. The farmers won't be moving by their own, and even if the police officials of Haryana have been stating that when they come, when the farmers come, it will take them approximately half an hour, 45 minutes to remove these blockades. But what is very shocking is the problem which the normal commuters are facing. I'm not standing on any side lanes. This is the National Highway 1, which is considered to be the busiest highway, and the speed at which the vehicles have been going and coming on this highway has been a trend mark for all across the country. So this highway being totally blocked from this side at Panipat and Sonipat border, and similar kind of situation is there where Alok is standing right now.
You said, Priyank, that if they reach this point, they're going to take about 45 minutes. They'll also need a lot of high-level construction or industrial equipment to move those kind of blocks that we are staring at right now. It's a little surprising that that's the level of attempt that has been made to block them. How many of those farmers are, from on that route where you stand, Priyank? How many of them? Is there a rough estimate that at least the officials are giving you?
See, the local intelligence unit has given an estimate of around 20,000 farmers to the gathering which is there at the Panipat border. What happened actually, the farmers from Punjab and Haryana had decided to come to the Panipat area, and after Ambala, all of them came together at the Panipat toll plaza. So on one side, the farmers who were in Haryana had moved towards Panipat. On the other side, those farmers who showed a massive show of strength with the Punjab and Haryana police has also managed to reach Panipat. So all this total gathering of around more than 1,000 vehicles, Tanvi, is stationed at the Panipat border, and they are waiting for the early morning hour because it's not possible for them also to have that kind of confrontation, because that could result to injuries to these farmers, which they are certainly attempting to avoid. So they have decided to move towards the national capital early in the morning. They are very much determined that they will move towards the national capital, and even if these boulders, these big concrete, construction material has been kept throughout the day by the state police. The state police also very well know that the moment farmers will come, because of them coming along with the tractors and trolleys, it will be very, it's just going to be a matter of few minutes or an hour for them to remove. It's just a hurdle which is being created, which is certainly agitating them.
Yes, and it will agitate the protesting farmers a lot more. One can be very sure of that. Priyank, thanks for bringing us those updates. Let's go across to Alok, who's at the Singhu border. And Alok's been reporting for us through the day over there. Alok, there also, what's the current situation? And have you managed to speak to any of these protesting farmers? What are they saying about the comments made by the central government and union minister today?
See, Tanvi, as of now, the farmers have not managed to arrive over here, but I would just like to show you the situation around. If you see that what the Priyank was telling to us, to our viewers, that there was the concrete blocks that are kept, the similar kind of concrete blocks are kept over here as well. This is Singhu border, and this is very prominent location because this road is connecting Delhi and Chandigarh, and this road is not only leading towards Chandigarh, this road is leading towards the Himachal Pradesh and also towards the Uttarakhand as well. If you see this place, this is the road, this is the national highway, and at this national highway, these kinds of blocks, these are the cement blocks that are kept over here. These are the barbed wires that are also installed. And not only that, these trucks, you can see, these trucks are also over here. And in these trucks, there are soils that are also over there. So these trucks these trucks are parked as the way that if any protesters or any person want to just pass through, they cannot do it. It's very easily. So this is what the way that the police force and the police personnel are taking and made the arrangements. And not only that, if you go on the other side, because not only one police, that there are paramilitary force, CISF, RAF, BSF, all these paramilitary force are over here. In fact, what my video journalist Azad is showing it to you, these are the rapid action force police jawan, and this is the road. This road is going towards Chandigarh. Earlier, which I was showing it, that road was going towards Delhi. So both the roads are blocked. Both the roads are completely blocked. No traffic movement, nothing at all is happening. And this is not the normal view, because this is the first time I am showing this kind of a blockage at this particular road. And because the farmers have already reached to Panipat and they have already decided to sit at that place, because they cannot move right now in the night hours. Definitely they will move in the morning hours, but police deployment will remain like this. What the police officials of the Delhi police and Haryana police told to us, that the similar kind of situation will remain throughout the night. So definitely,
So, Alok, what
will
about
happen
regular
next,
traffic
that's what we can say, that in the morning
and
that the action
others
would take.
who may want to be traveling across these states?
Yes, definitely. If you see that many people were stuck in the route of this whole, if you see that my video journalist will show you that there are the traffic, there are the vehicles which are already stuck more than 4 to 5 hours. There are trucks, there are cars, they are stuck over here. Many people have already abandoned their car, and they have moved back towards their home or whatever their destination is. But right now they are still stuck. भाई आपकी गाड़ी है यहाँ पर? कहाँ गाड़ी है? कौन सी गाड़ी है आपकी?
ये सर आयसर गाड़ी है।
तो कितनी देर से फंसी हुई है?
सर मैं 2 बजे खड़े हुए हैं सर।
2 बजे से यहाँ पर फंसे
हाँ
हुए हैं आप
सर,
लोग?
अभी तक कोई सुनवाई नहीं हो रही सर।
कुछ नहीं हो रही है?
नहीं सर।
तो इसी तरीके से लगभग कितने किलोमीटर तक होगा ऐसे?
ये सर कम से कम 10 किलोमीटर तक।
8-10 किलोमीटर
हाँ
तक?
सर।
आपकी भी गाड़ी है?
हाँ जी,
कौन सी ट्रक है आपकी?
कैंटर
क्या
है
लेकर के आ रहे हैं आप?
खाली करके आ
हम लोग
रहे
दिल्ली
हैं,
में जाना चाह रहे थे।
खाली करके आ रहे हैं माल।
अच्छा, माल खाली करके आ रहे हैं। अभी आपको दिल्ली जाना है?
हाँ जी, दिल्ली जाना है।
Okay. So this way, the commuters are stuck more than 5 to 6 hours. What they are telling to us. And if you see this lane, what my video journalist is showing you, this lane, you can see that vehicles are stuck over here. That logic I do not understand, Tanvi, why the police is not allowing these vehicles to move towards the national capital. They can clearly check their identity cards and they can move, they can allow the movement one by one, but they are not allowing. Why they are doing it, I don't understand. When we talk to the senior officers, they are saying that this is the order from the seniors, but definitely why they are doing, we cannot understand right now. But the situation on the ground is that many people, many commuters are still stuck at the Singhu border of the national capital. Back to you.
Yes, well, why are they doing this? One can imagine perhaps to create further pressure and tell the farmers, look, because of you, how everybody else is also facing trouble and is also having to go through this. What can we do? Thank you so much, Alok and Priyank, for bringing us those updates. Let's say good evening to the panelists who are joining us right now. Shweta Shalini, spokesperson for the BJP, Adil Singh Bopara, national spokesperson for the Congress Party, Rakesh Tikait, national spokesperson for the Bharatiya Kisan Union. I also have Sudhir Tiwari, farmer leader from Madhya Pradesh, joining us, and Jasbir Singh Bhatti, president for the Rashtriya Kisan Sangathan. Let me see if I can go across to Jasbir Singh Bhatti ji. Thank you so much, Bhatti ji. आप भी इस आंदोलन के में पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं, आपको भी रोक दिया गया है। आप हमें अपनी लोकेशन बता सकते हैं और क्या बोल रही है पुलिस वहाँ?
पुलिस सुबह से हमने जब तक करनाल बाईपास में हमको इन्होंने रेस्ट
Okay, we're going to try and patch him again, and if the network's obviously not easy to get through there as well, then maybe we can try him on the phone line. Bhatti ji, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही थी, दोबारा बोलें, अब हम सुन सकते हैं आपको.
हेलो, अब आ रही आवाज?
हाँ जी, हाँ जी.
हेलो हेलो
भाटी जी अब आ रही है मुझे आवाज आपकी, मैं सुन सकती हूँ। अभी अभी बताएं।
हेलो
It's just a tricky line. I think we're just going to get him on the phone. It will be simpler to speak to him on the phone line. But let me actually go across to Rakesh Tikat, national spokesperson for the Bharatiya Kisan Union. Mr. Tikat, is this a politically fueled agitation? Once the center has said we are ready to talk, come speak with us, is there a need to mobilize farmers in such large numbers? क्या जरूरत है इसकी?
नहीं, जरूरत तो इसलिए है कि सरकार जब बात नहीं सुनती और 2 महीने तक किसान अपनी बात कहते रहे, वहां पर पंजाब में बैठे रहे, सरकार ने नहीं सुनी तो दिल्ली की तरफ को आना पड़ता है, क्योंकि कानून दिल्ली की चमकीली कोठियों में बैठकर बनता है। तो किसान को अपनी बात कहने के लिए दिल्ली आना पड़ा। अब हरियाणा से तो हमारी कोई लड़ाई है नहीं, तो अत्याचार तो हरियाणा गवर्नमेंट अब कर रही है। भाई हमको दिल्ली आने दो, वहां पे बॉर्डर पे जो कुछ होगा वहां पे करेंगे, उनसे बातचीत करेंगे। अब हरियाणा में पहले तो एजिटेशन हरियाणा की सरकार के खिलाफ करना पड़ रहा है। हरियाणा से कोई लड़ाई थोड़ा है हमारी लड़ाई भारत सरकार से है, तो हमको भारत सरकार तक तो आने दो।
नहीं तो
या
ये
भारत सरकार
सवाल
किसानों के
बार-बार
बीच में
सब लोग पूछ रहे हैं कि राकेश टिकैत जी
जी।
कि ये लड़ाई देश भर के फार्मर्स की तो लग नहीं रही है, और कहीं ऐसे प्रदर्शन क्यों नहीं हो रहे, ये पंजाब में से ही सबसे ज्यादा क्यों आ रहा है?
नहीं, मतलब पूरा प्रदेश, जब पूरा देश जले जब ही सरकार बदलेगी। कल उत्तर प्रदेश में होगा, कल 11 बजे से शुरू उत्तर प्रदेश में हो रहा। अगर पूरे देश में आग लगने के बाद ही सरकार मान लेगी कि आंदोलन हो रहे हैं, तो कल से वो शुरू करवा देते हैं। मतलब यही जरूरी मान रहे कि यहाँ नहीं हो रहा। राजस्थान में लोगों को रोक रखा है, लोग शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से वहां पर बैठे हुए हैं। उत्तर प्रदेश में कल से हम शुरुआत कर रहे हैं। उत्तर प्रदेश में पहले भी आंदोलन हुए हैं। तो सरकार ये करे कि बसें जलवावे, ट्रैक्टर लेकर आवे, तोड़ फोड़ करे, ये करे, वही सरकार मान लेगी जब ये आंदोलन को मान लेंगे। क्या ये जनता की आवाज सुनाई नहीं देती इनको? क्या जो एमएसपी से कम पे फसलों की खरीद हो रही वो दिखाई नहीं देती सरकारों को? जो 1800 रुपया क्विंटल बिकना चाहिए था धान, वो 800, 700 और 1000 रुपए क्विंटल में खरीद हो रही, वो दिखाई नहीं देता इनको। मक्का का किसान बर्बाद हो गया, वो दिखाई नहीं देता। पूरा लॉकडाउन में वेजिटेबल्स का किसान बर्बाद हुआ, वो दिखाई नहीं देता। क्या आंदोलन करने का ही एक माध्यम होगा कि किसान खेत में भी काम करेगा और किसान सड़क पर आंदोलन भी करेगा?
ठीक है, मैं सुधीर तिवारी जी से भी यही पूछती हूँ सवाल। तिवारी जी, ये भी कहा जा रहा है कि कुछ जो फार्मर्स कुछ स्टेट्स में है उनको मिसलीड किया जा रहा है, उनको बहकाया जा रहा है, गलत इन्फॉर्मेशन दी जा रही है। आपका क्या कहना है, ये स्टेट जो नए लॉज हैं ये नुकसान करेंगे, और क्या कुछ ही स्टेट्स के लोगों को नुकसान करेंगे?
ये कहना बिल्कुल गलत है कि ये कुछ ही स्टेट के जो फार्मर हैं उसको एजिटेशन कर रहे हैं, आंदोलन कर रहे हैं। ये वाला आंदोलन ऐसा है कि इसमें पूरे देश के 500 संगठन इस बात के लिए सहमत हैं कि ये किसान विरोधी है, ये किसान विरोधी बिल है। और मुझे एक चीज बताइए कि हमारा राइट है कि हम संविधान के जो मंदिर है, हम संवैधानिक तरीके से, कानूनी तरीके से, हम संविधान के मंदिर संसद में जाके हम अपना बात रखना चाहते हैं, उधर जाना चाहते हैं। हम लोग कोई तोड़फोड़ नहीं कर रहे हैं, हमें क्यों रोका जा रहा है, मुझे ये समझ में नहीं आ रहा। अभी तक 2000 से ज्यादा किसान नेताओं को उनके फोन ट्रैप करके उनको गिरफ्तार कर लिया गया है। सरकार ने हर स्तर पे देश के कोने कोने में, मध्य प्रदेश में सतना में अपने तरीके से रोको ठोको आंदोलन के कार्यकारी निदेशक जो हैं वो अपना आंदोलन कर रहे हैं। हर जो जैसी स्थिति में है कोविड महामारी को देखते हुए हर आदमी इस पोजीशन पे नहीं है कि वो दिल्ली जा पाए, फिर भी इतने संख्या में किसान संगठन, बहुत से देश के किसान के नेता, बड़े बड़े किसान नेता वहां पहुंचे हुए हैं। 2000 से ज्यादा किसान नेताओं को जो बड़े बड़े डिफरेंट प्रदेशों से आए हैं, जिला स्तर, ब्लॉक स्तर से आए, उनको गिरफ्तार कर लिया गया है।
ठीक है,
मेरा तो सिर्फ ये बोलना है कि ये संवैधानिक तरीके से कोई हथियार बंद कोई अपना आंदोलन कर नहीं रहे हैं। एक अपना मौन होके अपनी बात रखने के लिए अगर दिल्ली में जाके वो जा रहे हैं और आंदोलन करना चाहते हैं, अपनी बात रखना चाहते हैं, तो उनको क्यों नहीं हक है ये?
ठीक है, I will go to our political representatives just a bit to get a response, but first up, Jasbir Singh Bhati, President of the Rashtriya Kisan Sangathan, I think is on the phone line. Bhati ji, आपको अब मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
बिल्कुल आ रही है।
अच्छा, तो अब आप बताएं, आप कितने बजे से कहाँ पे आपको रोका हुआ है, और अगर केंद्रीय सरकार कह रही है कि हम बातचीत के लिए रेडी हैं, तो क्या ये प्रोटेस्ट को खत्म नहीं कर देना चाहिए?
मैडम, प्रोटेस्ट खत्म होने की बात तो आप भूल जाओ। प्रोटेस्ट खत्म करना होता तो 3 बार बातचीत के लिए बुला चुके हैं। सरकार की नीयत है किसानों को, एक स्टेट के किसान को बुलाना, दूसरी स्टेट के किसान को बुला लिया। जब किसानों के 500 संगठन इकट्ठे होकर साथ में मेरी कमेटी बना दी गई है, तो बात उनसे करे ना, क्यों नहीं करता? ये मोदी सरकार की नीयत में खोट है। ये किसानों को बिल भड़का के इधर उधर करके अरेस्ट कर लिया, ये कर लिया। आज 12 बजे तो हमें अरेस्ट किया है। 23 तारीख से बड़े बड़े किसानों को अरेस्ट करना शुरू कर दिया था। तो ऐसे में क्या करना चाहता है ये? हम इसकी नीयत ऐसा है कि हम इस आंदोलन को दबा देंगे। ये आंदोलन दबने वाला नहीं है। किसान 4-4 महीने का राशन घर से लेके इसलिए चला है, उसको पहले पता था भाई ये खाना पीना नहीं दे सकेगी ये सरकार, ये ऐसी है। इसके लिए किसान की दुश्मन सरकार है। इसके पास किसान के
तो जसबीर सिंह जी, मैं आपकी बात समझ रही हूँ, मैं ये भी समझ रही हूँ कि जो किसान हैं वो अपनी आवाज सरकार तक ले जाना चाहते हैं। जिन्होंने उनकी आवाज नहीं सुनी पिछले 3 महीनों में, वो दिल्ली जाके बात करना चाहते हैं। लेकिन मेरा बस आपसे ये एक सवाल है, आज जो हमने कुछ पिक्चर्स देखे उसमें बैरिकेड्स को तोड़ फोड़ के फेंका जा रहा था, कहीं तो पत्थरबाजी भी हुई। क्या आप हमें ये आश्वासन दे सकते हैं कि आप अगर वहां पे कल परसों और जितने भी दिन आंदोलन करेंगे, ऐसी घटनाएं नहीं हो फार्मर्स के थ्रू?
नहीं, हम फार्मर से अपील करते हैं, कभी भी फार्मर का बेटा कोई ऐसा आंदोलन में गड़बड़ नहीं करेगा, वो कहीं पत्थरबाजी नहीं करेगा। पुलिस लाठी चलाए, गोली चलाए, डंडा चलाए, पुलिस की आंसू गोले छोड़े, वो पुलिस की मर्जी है। हम पुलिस से हाथ नहीं हटाएंगे और पूरी अनुशासन में रहते हुए हम आंदोलन कर रहे हैं। मगर सरकार इस आंदोलन को भड़काना चाहती है, इसको दिशा बदलना चाहती है। हम आंदोलन की दिशा नहीं बदलने देंगे। मैं आपको अपनी स्टोरी सुनाता हूँ। सुबह हमें 50 आदमियों को इन्होंने गिरफ्तार किया है। जिस टाइम पे गिरफ्तार की हमें की है, वो टाइम तकरीबन 12 बजे का था। 3 बजे तक सिर्फ एक पानी की 2-2 घूंट हमें थाना में पिलाई गई है। और 3 बजे भी हमके फिर एसपी साहब आए, उनको बोला चाय का तो कम से कम चाय तो पिला दो, और चाय भी हमारे पास 4 बजे आई है। और खाना हमने गुरुद्वारा से मंगाया। ये मोदी सरकार की देख बहुत गिरी हुई नीति है। जो किसान को खाना नहीं खिला सकती, तो किसान का हक कहाँ से दे देगी? हमें इसकी नीति पे पूरा शक है, डाउट है। ये बात करने के लिए बुला के भी हमसे चीटिंग करते हैं। 3 बार बातचीत के लिए बुलाया, 3 बार चीटिंग की है। अब इन्होंने बात करनी है तो हम इनके पास नहीं जाएंगे, किसान इसके पास नहीं आएगा। वो किसान के पास आए, हमारे दरवाजे खुले हैं, बातचीत के लिए हम बात करेंगे, बिल्कुल करने को तैयार है। मगर ऐसा नहीं होगा भाई ये कानून भी लागू कर दे और बातचीत भी करे। कानून वापस लेके बातचीत करने के लिए आए। जो 3 काले कानून किसानों के खिलाफ बनाए जी, किसान उसके कानून लागू होने से बिल्कुल बर्बाद हो जाएगा। वो कानून हम लागू नहीं होने देंगे।
ओके, मैं भट्टी जी, मैं हमारे साथ जो बीजेपी के प्रवक्ता है उनसे फिर जवाब मांगती हूँ। जो आपने पॉइंट उठाए हैं, हमारे देश के अन्नदाता जो चल के आ रहे हैं दिल्ली तक, श्वेता शालिनी, उनको भी खाना नहीं मिला आज।
तन्वी जी, 2-3 चीजें कहना चाहूंगी यहाँ पर। पहले बाकी लोगों का जवाब दे दूं, काफी लोगों की बातें सुन चुकी हूँ। एक चीज राकेश जी से बोलना चाहूंगी। आपने देखा कि किस प्रकार राकेश जी ने आपके स्टूडियो में बैठे बैठे 2-3 राज्यों में आंदोलन शुरू करवा दिए थे। और इसीलिए हम ये बात पहले भी कह रहे हैं और अभी भी कह रहे हैं दैट दिस एंटायर प्रोटेस्ट, सो कॉल्ड प्रोटेस्ट, इज कंप्लीटली पॉलिटिकल इन नेचर। गिन के 30 यूनियंस या 31 यूनियंस इसमें पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं, जिसमें से 60% जो यूनियंस हैं वो कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी की हैं, लगभग 20% अकाली दल की हैं और 10% कांग्रेस की है। तो आप समझ सकते हैं कि ये किस प्रकार पॉलिटिकल नहीं हो सकती हैं। दूसरी चीज, मैं सुधीर जी से प्रश्न पूछना चाहूंगी। जितने लोग आपको यहाँ पर दिख रहे हैं, एक के भी चेहरे पर मास्क है क्या? आज ऐसे समय में जब दिल्ली में इतनी ज्यादा संक्रमणता है, कोरोना इस हद तक फैला हुआ है, क्या आप किसान हित की बात कर रहे हैं जब इस बीच कोरोना काल में आप वहां पर इतनी बड़ी फौज लेके जाने की शुरुआत कर रहे हैं? दूसरी चीज, तोमर जी ने पहले कहा है, बाद में कहा है, बाद में कहा है, आज सबने देखिए, मैंने किसी के बीच में ना बोला। मुझे बहुत खुशी होगी तन्वी जी यदि आप मुझे प्रश्न का उत्तर, जी प्लीज, धन्यवाद। तीसरी चीज बोलना चाहूंगी, देखिए आपने बोला कि शांति प्रिय ढंग से हो रही है, आप यहीं पे वीडियोस देख सकते हैं जहां पर पत्थर उठा रहे हैं फार्मर्स, अभी एग्जैक्टली जैसे मैं बोल रही हूँ, देखिए पत्थर उठा रहे हैं और पुलिस पर फेंक रहे हैं। अब ये बताइए कि ये हमारे देश के किसान हैं? कतई नहीं। और अंत में केवल मात्र इतना कहना चाहूंगी कि ये सरकार पहले भी कह चुकी है, अभी भी कह रही है। आप लोगों ने तय किया 3 दिसंबर का दिन, जब 3 दिसंबर का दिन तय है और जब ये सरकार कह रही है कि आप आइए, आपकी मांगे क्या है? हम पहले से ही कह रहे हैं कि एमएसपी हटाई नहीं है, तो आप कह रहे हैं नहीं एमएसपी हटना ही नहीं चाहिए। हम आपको पहले से समझा के कह रहे हैं, इसीलिए ये पॉलिटिकल ज्यादा दिखता है, बिकॉज जब एमएसपी हटा ही नहीं है, जब एपीएमसी हटा ही नहीं है, आप क्या हटा है और क्यों ये अकाली चाहे कांग्रेस या इन लोगों के आरतियों को सबसे ज्यादा दुख हुई है?
आप एमएसपी नहीं हटाते, गारंटी कानून क्यों नहीं बनाते थे आप?
देखिए, अगर
आपको गारंटी कानून
अब इसका आप जवाब दीजिए, बताइए। अब आप क्या जानते हैं, बताइए।
देखिए ऐसा है, हम जहां पर, देखिए ऐसा है, 2-3 चीजें मैं आपको बताना चाहती हूं। आज इस कानून के तहत आज हमारे देश में किस चीज की जरूरत है, सबसे ज्यादा जरूरत है? आप लोग क्या क्या मांग रहे हैं? 2-3 चीजें जो मांग रहे हैं उनके ऊपर चर्चा कर लेते हैं। पहली चीज, एमएसपी
किसानों के लिए क्या है कानून में, ये तो नहीं बता दो।
किसानों के लिए साहब, आज जो रास्ते पे उतरे हैं ना साहब भाटी जी, आज तक 4% जो आरतिया घर पे लेके जाता है और किसानों के लिए कुछ नहीं करता है, वही तो हम कह रहे हैं कि सब किसानों के लिए ही है। आप किसान कमाएंगे, किसान का बेटा किसान बनना चाहेगा, आप ये समझिए। और यदि आरतिया को बेचना ही है तो आप आरतिया को बेचिए, हमने मना थोड़ी किया है। हम कह रहे हैं एपीएमसी करना है तो एपीएमसी कीजिए, लेकिन मार्केट खुला कीजिए। हम लाइसेंस राज हटा रहे हैं और ये आरतिया जो बेसिकली जो, अरे क्या बात कर रहे हैं? एक तो यहाँ जितने लोग हैं सब,
एक मिनट भट्टी जी, मैं जसबीर सिंह भट्टी, मैं जानती हूँ आप बहुत ज्यादा उत्तेजित हैं और गुस्सा भी हैं ये लॉज को लेके। 1 minute प्लीज, बट आई थिंक वन पॉइंट अबाउट द एमएसपी, व्हाट इज इट दैट द फार्मर्स आर सेइंग? इंश्योर कि एमएसपी नहीं हटे, ये तो केंद्रीय सरकार बार बार बोल रही है। Adil Singh Boparai, you haven't spoken yet, so I'm coming to you before I get the farmer representatives to respond. But if that part has been made clear that the MSP is not being tampered with, it's not even mentioned in the law, then is it a legitimate concern to keep talking about?
Tanvi, you must give me 90 seconds. Point number 1, it has become criminal in this country under Mr. Modi's New India to protest. Number 2, and this is extremely telling, today the Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson is calling farmers, hapless farmers who are really expressing their grievances and want their legitimate demands to be met by this government akin to anti-nationals. This is exactly the BJP playbook. Any person who disagrees with them is anti-national. He's working against the interests of the country. The BJP follows the mantra of it's either my way or highway. Now you come out with an ordinance in the middle of the pandemic. You thrust it on the floor of the House. You push it without even consulting necessary stakeholders. Your oldest alliance partner, Akali Dal, walks out of the alliance, and despite all that, the BJP spokesperson is blaming the opposition. Please understand, madam, in any civilized democracy, and I underline civilized, you first consult the necessary stakeholders like Mr. Bhati and all political parties, and then you come out with a law. You don't come out with a law and then thrust it on the people of this country. Number 4, their assurance of having talks is nothing but a white lie. The Bharatiya Janata Party has a track record of lying. I will give you 2 specific instances. Number 1, late Sri Arun Jaitley Sahab on the floor of the House said that in case of any shortfall in GST areas, it'll be the central government which will fill in the deficit. What is the current dispensation doing? They are not paying the state governments. Number two, the Prime Minister on the all-party meeting lies to the country that there has been no Chinese intrusion. The own MOD report contradicts him. So therefore, the farmers have a legitimate grouse. And coming to the merits of this law,
Tanvi, can I
please
come in?
understand how the Bharatiya Janata Party is really going ahead with its objective to eliminate and eradicate MSP. Once you have private yards and once you implement the Shanta Kumar committee recommendation, you will have a scenario where corporate companies like the Adanis and the Ambanis will monopolize the entire agricultural chain. Government of India will withdraw public procurement and MSP will become a dead letter. Any person who has an iota of understanding of farming will know that farmers from UP, Bihar and other states come to Punjab and Haryana to sell their produce, because in those states you don't even get the MSP. MSP is the right of the farmers. And if Mr. Modi is so interested and he is speaking for the benefit of the farmers, then what is the difficulty with having a clause saying that there will be no sale transaction below the MSP? The farmers will withdraw their agitation.
So 1 minute. Okay, point taken. Yes, Shweta, I am coming to you. Shweta Shalini, I am coming to you. आप जो पॉइंट सारे रेज किए उसका जवाब दे देंगे. 1 minute, let me talk. I am coming to you. Listen to me at least. Listen to me. I am coming to you. You are the only one who has to respond. जो किसान है उनको भी, जो politician parties है उनको भी आप ही, बीजेपी ही जवाब देगा. I only want to make it clear, Shweta Shalini, please don't raise the issue of COVID and ask them about wearing mask or social distancing. I will show you, and I kid you not, I will show you 20 visuals of BJP rallies, BJP celebrations, BJP leaders, BJP ministers breaking the rule again and again. For political rallies, for wedding ceremonies, do not go there, Shweta Shalini. When it comes to their livelihood, the farmers are protesting for their livelihood. Don't you dare, as a politician, use the COVID excuse and to sideline this issue. Now go ahead and respond on the merits of the issue, please.
Perfect. So point number one, I did not realize that Adil does not understand Hindi. So I'm sure he definitely did not understand what the farmers are talking about, because I definitely did not use the word national, anti-national at all. And I don't know where you are. Please do not speak while I am talking. Second, the complete lie of GST is pelted once again, because yes, GST has been returned and the highest number of GST is returned to the state where Congress is ruling, which is Maharashtra. Last but not the least, interstate sale of agri goods was never allowed. It is for the first time which is allowed in these laws. So please don't give me this crap, because you don't know what agricultural law was or APMC Act was earlier.
Language of national television.
So don't give that. And yes, please, Tanvi, please note, if there are rallies, you have pointed out that rallies, people have not, politicians have not worn a mask, and it's wrong. And hence,
so then don't lecture people who are peacefully marching, fighting for their livelihood, Shweta Shalini. You're insulting the farmer. Firstly, peaceful farmers have been blocked. Peaceful farmers have been blocked. Their right to protest has been taken away. You are now, with your blockades and barricades, creating a situation which will only get problematic from here on unless they give in and they withdraw. So please do not lecture them about the pandemic and COVID.
Then I'm sorry, that's not your job as media, because we need to
don't teach me my job.
Who are
learn to do your own job. Don't teach me my job.
If you're not doing it well, I will have to teach.
No, you don't have to. Thank you very much. I'm not taking any lessons from politicians and BJP spokesperson on how to do my job. Several other news channels may be more than willing to listen to you and toe the line you want to, but I don't, from any political party and any politician. Now, the issue here is the farmers, and I want to go back to that. और मैं वापस राकेश टिकायत जी पे जाऊंगी. राकेश टिकायत जी, ये अब इस जगह पे आ गई है जहां सरकार ब्लॉकेड्स हटाने से मना कर रही है, लेकिन उन्होंने मीटिंग के लिए बुलाया है, उन्होंने कहा है बातचीत करें और इस मैटर को सुलझाएं. तो क्या इस समय पे जब तक अगला टॉक्स नहीं हो जाता, क्या किसानों को प्रोटेस्ट रोक देनी चाहिए?
नहीं, ये ब्लॉकेज हटा दें, किसान जाके दिल्ली के दरवाजे पे चला जाएगा किसान, ये तो शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से जाना चाहता है। भाई ब्लॉकेज किसने लगाई? इन्होंने लगाई। और नाम किसके लगा रहे जी? बैरिकेटिंग तोड़ के गए थे। बैरिकेटिंग कोई पुलिस स्टेशन से उठा के जाए शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से, क्योंकि इनकी सरकार वहां पे है और ये कहा कि उसने ठेकेदारी ले ली
अरे उनको वाटर
कि हम वहां पर जाने नहीं
छोड़ रहे
देंगे।
हो आप, और बैरिकेड
अच्छा,
हटाना
दूसरे
जुर्म हो गया। वाटर कैनन फेंकना वो जुर्म नहीं हुआ।
बैरिकेटिंग क्यों नहीं हटाएगा किसान? यही किसान अपने जवानों को फौज में भेजता है। जब ये जवान उस पर लड़ता है ना बॉर्डर पे, फिर बहादुर से कहते हैं जी देखो देश का किसान, वो जवान लड़ रहा है। ये ऐसे ही यहाँ पर लड़ रहा है। ये शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से पीसफुली जाना चाहता है। आप इसकी बात सुनो, इसके दिल्ली बॉर्डर तक इसको जाने दो, वहां पे इनसे बात करो, वहां पे इनको लेना आना चाहिए। क्या दिल्ली में रैली नहीं होती? क्या दिल्ली में बड़ी बड़ी पॉलिटिशियन मीटिंग नहीं करते? इनको बात करनी पड़ेगी। रहा ये जैसे इन्होंने शालिनी ने
बात
कहा
करने के लिए हम
कि
तैयार हैं, बात करने के लिए तैयार हैं राकेश
तैयार तो
जी।
2 महीने से
तीन महीने से हम लोग
तैयार
लेटर
हैं।
भेज रहे हैं।
आप अच्छा बात करने को भी नहीं, कुछ नहीं, हम रोक देंगे पूरे इसको।
3 दिसंबर का
अच्छा बात क्यों
दिन
करो
तय हुआ है या
मैडम?
नहीं हुआ है? आप बताइए 3
मेरी
दिसंबर का दिन
बहन,
तय हुआ है या
आप
नहीं
लोग
हुआ है?
एजुटेशन के लिए
आप
तो
क्यों करो?
मास्क बता रहे हैं।
आप
आप लोगों ने
एमएसपी को
बिल
कानून
पास
बना
करने में
दो
तो
कि हमने
जल्दबाजी कोविड
अरे
नहीं देखा।
ताऊ मैंने
एमएसपी
आपको
पे क्या
बताया ना 3 दिसंबर का आप ही ने तो तय किया था दिन।
What is
आपने
going
तय
on?
किया था कि नहीं तय किया था?
आप कर दो ना इसको। आप ये कर दो कि भाई कानून बना दिया हमने कि एमएसपी से नीचे पर खरीद नहीं होगी, काफला रुक
अब
जाएगा,
आपने
आगे
कोविड
बात
नहीं देखा।
हो जाएगी।
ओके,
एक
नहीं
तो
मेरा
सवाल-
एक और सवाल है सुधीर तिवारी जी,
जी।
तो अभी क्या है प्लान, क्या है? 3 तारीख को अगर मीटिंग के लिए बुलाया जा रहा है, तब तक क्या जो सारे किसान आ रहे हैं अलग अलग स्टेट से, वो दिल्ली में जाके प्रदर्शन करेंगे और वहीं रुकेंगे?
बिल्कुल करेंगे।
कहाँ जाएंगे?
और हम लोग ये मान के चल रहे हैं कि ये आर पार की लड़ाई है। आर पार क्योंकि क्या है कि ये 3 महीने से हम लोग पिछले प्रधानमंत्री को लेटर भेज भेज के हम लोग उनसे संवाद करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। किसी भी एसी में बैठ के अगर किसानों की पॉलिसी बनने लगी तो फिर ऐसे ही एजिटेशन होंगे। मैं आपको भी बता दूं कि जो बीजेपी के प्रवक्ता है उन्होंने बोला कि ये पॉलिटिकल मोटिवेटेड है। मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि देखिए 500 संगठन देश के जो हैं उसमें सभी इस मत पे सब पे एक ही मत पे राजी हुए हैं कि ये किसान विरोधी है। देखिए 1971 का जो कानून था मंडी एक्ट, उसमें ये कहा गया था कि भाई इससे मिनिमम एमएसपी जो है, मिनिमम समर्थन मूल्य से नीचे अगर फसल बिकती है तो उसको जेल होती है। मतलब ये बिल्कुल एक कानून के खिलाफ होता है। अभी ये हो रहा है कि ये एमएसपी में वैसे भी आप देखिए फसल जो एमएसपी मंडियां जो है वैसे ही बहुत दूर दूर हैं और 6% 6% से 7% जो डाटा बताता है कि 7% से ज्यादा किसान एमएसपी पे बेच ही नहीं पाता।
करेक्ट।
इस पर भी किसान जो है, किसानों को व्यापारियों के माध्यम से एक लूट की मंडी में छोड़ने की ये प्लानिंग है। ये अडानी और अंबानियों के रिप्रेजेंटेशन कर रहे हैं, ना कि
नहीं
किसानों का।
यही पॉइंट तो दूसरी साइड उठाती है सुधीर तिवारी की, जब एमएसपी वैसे भी में 7% का ही बेनिफिट होता है, तो इसको इतना बड़ा मुद्दा अभी क्यों बनाया जा रहा है? उसका क्या डर?
हमारा तो शुरू से ही ये हमारा शुरू से ही लड़ाई है।
हम ये कह रहे हैं कि मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस को छोड़कर अब आप जैसे लोगों को
प्लीज मेरी बात सुनिए। आप मेरी बात सुनिए पूरा। मैं आपसे सिर्फ मैं अपनी बात पे आ रहा हूँ। पहले देखिए जो सुरक्षा कवच है वो उसका मिनिमम समर्थन मूल्य है। आपने उसमें जो कानून बनाया है उसमें सुरक्षा कवच तो दिया नहीं है कानून में कि भाई आप इससे, हम लोग तो सिर्फ यही चाह रहे हैं कि आप कहीं भी बिके इंडिया में वो मिनिमम समर्थन मूल्य से नीचे नहीं बिके। तो उसका किसान का सुरक्षा कवच होना चाहिए। आप लोगों ने उसके लिए आप इस कानून के माध्यम से हम जो सरकार है अपनी जिम्मेदारी से और पीछे हटना चाह रही है। किसान
कि
वैसे
वो
ही
जो
परेशान
सुरक्षा कवच है सबसे मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस वाला, वो चले जाएगा। श्वेता शालिनी wants to respond. Shweta Shalini, I know you want to respond. Go ahead, please. And Adil, then I'm coming to you. Let her respond to the farmer first. Yes, Shweta Shalini.
सुधीर जी
कर रहे हैं। आप लोगों ने कोविड को ध्यान में
सुधीर तिवारी सुन लीजिए, अभी बीजेपी आपको जवाब दे रहे हैं, सुन लीजिए।
सुधीर जी देखिए, अब वो समय आ गया है हमारे देश में, आपकी बात मैंने सुनी, आप मेरी बात समझिए। अब वो समय आ गया है जब हमें मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस से हटकर मैक्सिमम प्राइस की तरफ देखना चाहिए। मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस तो सरकार आपको देने के लिए तैयार है, और सरकार ये भी कह रही है कि यदि आपको कोई चर्चा नहीं, हम शुरुआत से यही कह रहे हैं, हम शुरुआत से यही कह रहे हैं कि हमने एमएसपी कभी हटाया ही नहीं है, हमने एमएसपी कभी हटाया ही नहीं है। देखिए ऐसा है, हमने एमएसपी कभी हटाया ही नहीं है, हम तो ये कह रहे हैं कि मैक्सिमम की तरफ हम बढ़ना शुरू करें, और वो तब होगा जब हम ये लॉज लगाएंगे, जब हम फार्मा प्रोड्यूसर कंपनीज बनाएंगे, और जब हम दोपट करने की बात कर रहे हैं, तीपट करने की बात कर रहे हैं, और किसानों को और ज्यादा, ये हमारे मूल हैं, आप ये समझिए। बिल्कुल तो गारंटी कर सकते हैं, मिनिमम समर्थन की हमने शुरुआत से सरकार ने ये बात कही है कि एमएसपी की गारंटी है, एमएसपी कभी भी।
ऑल राइट, ऑल राइट,
सुधीर जी,
मेरे ख्याल से ये इश्यूज नहीं होते अगर ये कॉन्वर्जेशन लॉ लाने के पहले कर लिया होता। अगर सारे किसान संगठनों के साथ जो आज रास्ते पे हैं, जिनके लीडर्स को आज डिटेन किया गया, रोका गया, जो अभी भी वहाँ पे डिटेंशन में ही हैं, सड़क पे ही हैं, अगर उनसे पहले बातचीत कर ली होती तो शायद आज ये सिचुएशन नहीं आती। आई एम रनिंग अ लिटिल शॉर्ट ऑन टाइम। वेरी क्विक कमेंट फ्रॉम आदिल सिंह बोपरा। आदिल, you wanted to make a point, and as you do,
नहीं हो सकती।
the charge against the Congress party, Adil, is also this कि आपको अपनी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करनी थी, रेल रोको हटाना था, तो इसलिए आपने जाके किसानों से बातचीत की और उनको बोला दिल्ली चले जाओ, वहां पे प्रदर्शन कर लो, यहाँ का प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाए।
Well, first, Tanvi, I'm quite astonished by the arrogance and the insensitivity of the BJP spokesperson. Number two, please do not underestimate the intelligence, the autonomy, and the agency of the farmers. The farmers can take a decision on their own volition. Number three, let's test what the BJP spokesperson has said, that these laws will actually increase farmer incomes. If that is the case, madam, what stops you from just putting a clause in the law that there will be no sale transaction below the MSP? You are ostensibly saying that this will double, treble, quadruple farmers' income. Then what is the difficulty in having a clause that there will be no sale transaction below the MSP? The agitation will stop. The fact of the matter is the Bharatiya Janata Party is a party of the Adanis, by the Adanis, and for the Adanis. This is their agenda to completely eliminate and eradicate MSP in terms of the Shanta Kumar Committee. Please, let's be very clear on this. They have sold family silver. They have sold all the airports and privatized the airports for the Adanis. The next step is to allow the Adanis to monopolize the agriculture market. We are officially in recession today, Tanvi, and it was the agriculture sector which helped the economy during this phase. We are in recession, banks are collapsing, there are no jobs. Is this the right time to be on a collision course with the farmers of this country? I put this question to the BJP.
Shalini?
All I can say is, please note what each and everything that the Congress spokesperson has said is blatant lie, because it is based on non-understanding of the bill, complete non-understanding of the bill. The basic point on which the entire logic stood was that of the MSP, which stands as it is in the bill. Second, the APMC, which stands as it is in the bill. It is Congress and the various other parties which I have named earlier, like the Communist and the Akalis, which have ruled the roost as far as agents, the third party dalals in this entire line of the third party dalals, and this is nothing but the dalals speaking, because eventually it is this 4% commission which they have earned and created the muscle power, and their entire politics stands on that, because the farmers, the actual farmers, will be benefited, which these political parties do not want. They have come to the roads to protest.
I think Shweta Shalini, at some point your party, I will say this, the three laws that you bought does have a few good aspects in it. There is no denying that fact. There are few benefits there for the farmers. अगर हम आज farmer union से भी पूछे, वो भी यही कहेंगे. But there are a few problematic points, and the BJP needs to stop being in denial about it. Either you convince them, sit across the table and explain to them and give them those assurances, or you understand where this law can get dangerous. And this is not just me saying it. Their own ally Shiromani Akali Dal repeatedly raised it and then walked out of the alliance and out of the central government. Their other very close friend, the BJD, has also said that while there are good aspects to this law, there are a few problems and there needs to be exhaustive conversation. Unfortunately, the BJP, since the time they brought in these laws, has not been in a mood for a conversation. That is why talks have failed with the farmers. That is why it was such a problem when the laws were brought in, even in the parliament where barely any conversation happened. That is why the farmers are agitating today. And look at the way it is being handled. That's very, very disappointing. You've blocked them. Peaceful people headed towards the national capital. If you have intelligence reports about antisocial elements within these crowds, pick them out and take them. But to completely block their way, stop them, and not allow them to protest, to take their voice to the national capital is very disappointing. Add to that, to try and create a situation where because you've blocked the highways, there will be inconvenience to the common people, those regular commuters or otherwise commuters between various states who've been now stuck there for hours, trucks that are stranded for hours together. That's just unfortunate. At least learn something from what your own party did when they were in power here in Maharashtra, when thousands of farmers from parts of Maharashtra walked to Mumbai. Thousands of them peacefully protested, held conversations with the BJP, then BJP government in the state, called off the protest and went home. Show our Annadata at least that much respect. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back. We move on to conversation number 2. The big debate over One Nation, One Polls has been reignited. Prime Minister Modi himself had earlier mentioned it, but today, on Constitution Day, the Prime Minister chose to once again bring about the focus on one nation, one election. The need for a single voter list for all polls in order to prevent the impact of the Model Code of Conduct on development work, because there are elections every few months in some or the other part of our country. Some may say you were constantly in election mode. We just about got done with Bihar elections and we're already preparing for a 5-state marathon big election season. It's coming in 2021 and in those states activities have begun. Now, in case you're wondering what is this One Nation, One Poll all about really? Let me tell you, it essentially means that we are looking at a possibility of conducting Lok Sabha and the state elections at the same time across the country, the state elections and the Lok Sabha elections together. Obviously, this will mean that we will have to restructure the entire election cycle because right now the terms are getting over at various points, 5-year terms. At some point, we will have to synchronize this for the states and the center. And then what can happen is that you, the voter, can actually go to your polling station on the same day and choose and cast your vote for your MP and your MLA at the same time. That's largely the concept behind simultaneous polls. In fact, we have held simultaneous polls in our country earlier. In 1952, in 1957, and 62 and 67. And after that, because of midterm polls, governments falling before term, there was a bit of a mismatch and it just went all haywire. Now the debate has been reignited. On one side, those who want to bring in simultaneous polls say that this will help with consistency and continuity in governance, because your machinery is not so busy with holding election, including your leaders, sitting ministers who would otherwise be campaigning constantly. So their focus can totally be on governance. It reduces the burden on finances and manpower rather than having different sets of elections. And it curbs poll corruption on black money. On the other hand, Those who oppose it ask, well, how does it work? If government falls in one state, then it complicates the plan, doesn't it? And what are we supposed to do in that state? Wait for the next cycle, give the power to the center till then? There's obviously the burden for manpower on the EC, on our security forces to ensure that at one time it goes on smoothly across the country, and the fear of whether citizens, voters, you will be able to differentiate between national issues and local issues while you cast your vote for both at the same time. Some of these talking points that I'm going to be putting out to our panelists as well, but very quickly, I want to play out what our Prime Minister said. Now, this was his address on the Constitution Day, because it's very interesting. Prime Minister didn't just say, let's talk about it. He said, well, time for conversation is done. This is now the need of the hour. Listen.
वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन सिर्फ एक चर्चा का विषय नहीं है, बल्कि ये भारत की जरूरत है। हर कुछ महीने में भारत में कहीं न कहीं बड़े चुनाव हो रहे होते हैं। इससे विकास के कार्यों पर जो प्रभाव पड़ता है, उसे आप सब भली भांति जानते हैं। ऐसे में वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन पर गहन अध्ययन और मंथन आवश्यक है। इसके साथ ही लोकसभा हो, विधानसभा हो या पंचायत चुनाव हो, इनके लिए एक ही वोटर लिस्ट काम में आए।
Let's say good evening to Sudesh Verma, then spokesperson for the BJP, Aman Panwar, spokesperson for the Congress Party, Neeja Chaudhary, senior journalist, also joining us this evening. And first up, if I can go across to Mr. Qureshi, former CEC, Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, good evening. Thank you for being with us. Dr. Qureshi, these conversations have happened so many times. To your mind, why is it that we've not been able to move forward with this idea?
You're absolutely right. This was discussed ad infinitum for almost 2 years. And the Prime Minister himself had said that this is a subject that requires debate and discussion. Otherwise, he could have just passed it in Parliament. He was in a position to do so. He wanted a debate on it, national debate, which happened, and we could not arrive at a consensus. Today again, he is again talked of Manthan and consensus. So let there be a debate because there are merits in the suggestion and there are problems in the suggestion which were highlighted earlier. And as we go along in this program, we'll highlight the problems and also the possible solutions.
Okay, Mr. Sudesh Verma, so what is going to change this time from the last time when we had conversations, when a white paper was put out, and I'm also refreshing the memories of our viewers right now. Political parties responded to it in great detail as well. Now, how are you going to differently approach this time?
You see, the leaves have to be picked up from where the various points of views have been expressed. And when the Prime Minister gives call for such a consensus, it has to happen through consensus. That is a big word, actually. And people should understand that the focus of polity has shifted from contentious politics to development, politics of development. Everybody wants this country to grow faster and we have to catch up, and this is the best time for India. So in that context, if you see, and earlier two elections happened together, and now we can see that, panchayat elections, assembly elections, parliamentary elections, the Prime Minister has also spoken about being electoral rolls being the same, why can't we have one kind of consensus whereby, some parties will lose, some parties will gain. But finally, a formula has to be evolved, and I'm sure that the government and also the election commission and also the opposition parties have a great responsibility. And now they should pick it up from there and let's debate and let's try to reach a consensus on that.
Okay, let me then begin by asking the Congress party where they stand on this issue and if they are open to having a conversation on simultaneous polls. I find merit, Aman Panwar, in the argument that if you hold elections at one go, it really saves the leaders a lot of time to actually focus on governance. Otherwise, we see everybody from top to bottom, ministers and political leaders, half the time campaigning than focusing on governance.
See, Tanvi, as you highlighted, used to have simultaneous elections after we had our constitution in place, and it went on so for about 20 years. But then the question today is that when a state government is elected for a constitutional period of 5 years, can the parliament and does the parliament have the authority to cut down that particular tenure? The second question that arises is that assuming this system is put in place, is there not a possibility tomorrow that a government falls midway and there is some disruption in the coalition, or there is some kind of other exigency because of which the government is unable to continue? So are we looking at a scenario where in such a situation the people of that particular state will be forcibly put under governor's rule? The other important argument that the BJP is making is that it saves on expenditure. Now, there is a parliamentary committee report which says that the total expenditure in elections, for both the Lok Sabha elections and combined all the state elections, is 4,500 crore rupees. And let me tell you that an RTI revealed that from the Prime Minister's office itself, which said that in the last tenure from 2014 to 19, Mr. Modi had spent 4,600 crore rupees on his own personal advertisements. He had blown away that amount of public exchequer money for his self-promotion. So there is double standards in the argument of the BJP. On one hand, they say they want to save on the exchequer's money. At the same time, they are blowing away public funds amounting to 4,600 crores, which surpasses the total expenditure on elections in the country. And the other important point here is that when the voters, the electorate have mandated a particular state government for a period of 5 years, and now when you say that, we will have simultaneous elections, then obviously it is disadvantage because to the regional parties, because they are of course going to lose footprint in this entire scenario, and national parties including Congress. The argument I'm making is disadvantageous to our party also.
You mean
that only the national parties will have a larger advantage in this scenario? But does this mean that just for some political advantage, we compromise the fundamental principle of federalism?
Why would regional parties be at a disadvantage, or even the Congress, for lack of funds?
No, not. The point here is when an election is held on a pan-India level, on a pan-India platform, and at the same time you are voting for state elections. Obviously, the Lok Sabha elections have a different voting pattern. The state elections do have a different voting pattern. But when both the votings happen at the same time, the state issues are to be confused with the national issues. And that's why the national parties will obviously have an advantage over the state parties. Because the state parties will never be able to raise the state issues in the manner the national parties will be clouding the entire space, the mind space, the media space. Hence, when the state elections are happening at a juncture different from at a time different from the national election.
Okay. So let's pick up point by point. I think we all know the conversation points which are there. Let's try and address them again. And let's start with the first one, Neerja Chaudhary. What happens when a government falls before its term ends? Now, one solution is to say, well, let's just say that you hold elections twice in 5 years, and if in between that there is a problem, you wait till the next round. Now, is that advisable, or will that be detrimental?
What you're looking at, yes, is a fixed term parliament or a fixed term assembly. One scenario is that you cannot bring down the government during those 5 years once you've elected it. You have to lump it no matter good, bad, indifferent. And that is not a choice that the voter has. So the principle of accountability could be affected. The second thing could be that, okay, if a government falls, then you go for central rule, governor's rule, till the 5 years are over. Again, that's a principle of accountability. getting affected. Now, you have on the one hand, yes, what the Prime Minister's talked about, Model Code of Conduct kicks in too frequently, therefore doesn't go ahead. A lot of money is spent. So those two principles of money and development are on the one side, so-called. The other side is what has been said is that regional parties fear it because studies in the past have showed, and institutions have done these studies, that almost 3/4 of the voter tends to vote, one way, the national way, if national and state elections are held together. And I don't know what would happen if the panchayat and local elections are also clubbed together, because the Prime Minister has spoken about this one also. Therefore, in a country as diverse as India, where we have respected diversity, not uniformity, in order to hold the country together, how is this going to affect that principle? And therefore, the smaller parties, the regional parties, which are one-state parties or two-state parties or even three-state parties, fear this, that a large national party like the BJP, it will go in their favor and not in the favor of the regional parties. Now, is that a desirable principle viewed from the larger interests of the unity of India? Unity is very different from uniformity.
Yes.
So I think these are very important questions that need to be debated and debated threadbare. In the coming months, and the Prime Minister's called for it. Of course, we've had standing committee reports. Mr. Qureshi will recall, I think it was 2015, where the Standing Committee of Parliament had also given a report. So this has been going on. I would say one more thing, Tanvi, that one of the reasons that elections are hyped up, if you have the Prime Minister having to canvass for his party a dozen times in one state election like Bihar. Or if you have to have the Home Minister go and canvass for his party in a municipal election like in Hyderabad now, the election does get hyped up. So I think we have to think of that also. Local leaderships to be the campaigners much more, rather than every time a party having to bring in a Prime Minister who needs to give his attention much more to the country.
Yes, I completely agree with you on that, and that's why I said there is merit to that argument that, there needs to be more focus on governance rather than constantly being in a political campaigning mode, irrespective of who it is. Dr. Qureshi, to this problem that has been repeatedly raised and has been obviously looked into, what's the, best solution we've come up with to say what happens when a government falls, ahead of its end of term?
Yeah, that is exactly the problem I had highlighted several times in various articles and media interventions. And Nirjaji has raised this issue. This has to be, a solution has to be found. But some other issues which are raised about expenditure. It is not just election management expenditure of 4,600. This is an argument in favor of simultaneous election. One study showed that 60,000 crores were spent on the election by all parties and campaign and all that. So that is a lot of expenditure, and that is not just election management. So need for cutting the cost is good. Secondly, for the voter and for the election commission, let me tell you, simultaneous election will be the best, in the sense that for the voter is the same for all three elections, Panchayat, Vidhan Sabha and Lok Sabha. The polling booth is the same, polling staff is the same, security apparatus is the same. The voter goes there and presses three buttons, three different machines, and it is over for 5 years. Now, US elections were held last month. There were 20 or 30 elections on the same day. You were voting for 20, 30 different elections.
Yeah.
So that model also is there, and therefore we need to look at it.
But Dr. Qureshi, I remember, and this was a while ago, I think a couple of years ago, you had written in a piece on this. One very interesting point you had raised in that was to say, well, it's not bad to have frequent elections, because that way at least we get to see our leaders, and we get to seek accountability from our leaders. You think that would become a crucial issue, especially in a country like India, where it is often said that once politicians win, they don't come back until the next election?
Correct, exactly. In fact, this issue has been raised that what do people want? People love elections, because at least it brings the politician, MLA, MP to their door repeatedly. Otherwise, they will not show. It's a common complaint that MLA MP after election doesn't show his face for 5 years. So people love election. And also there is one slogan which I had heard somewhere from a Chhattisgarh girl that जब जब चुनाव आता है गरीब के पेट में पुलाव आता है so they love it. So obviously when you're talking of democracy and election, we have to go by sentiment of the people. So as I said, there are arguments, strong arguments for and against this, and they have to be examined and balanced. But let me just 1 second, Tanvi, let me remind you. When we originally, when Prime Minister talked of simultaneous election, he talked of all 3 tiers. Panchayat, Vidhan Sabha, and now along the way, we stopped talking of Panchayat, now which means another election. And then instead of 1 election in 5 years, they started saying that, okay, let's have 2 elections in 5 years. So with such dilution of the proposal, the proposal loses its moral authority.
Okay, in fact, I was going to raise just that point because I think this time around they are speaking of all the 3 tiers again. And if I am given to understand correctly, the PMO in the month of August, around mid-August, actually even held a meeting to discuss the possibility of preparing a common voters list, which would not include the municipal panchayat, voters list as well, and somewhere that commonality will have to be found. So, in fact, so this would be on the government's agenda to actually ensure that either the EC's voter list gets adopted everywhere and that becomes one single voters list. This is also something, Mr. Sudesh Verma, that the Prime Minister mentioned today.
Yes, of course. You see, we should understand one thing, I was listening to the arguments that people of this country, they can be trusted with their decision. It's not that when they vote for assembly elections and Lok Sabha elections together, they have shown the maturity that they have voted for a different party for the state, whereas they were voted for a different party at the national level. So it is not that if they vote, there will be, a kind of surge impact that the major party or the nationalist party will only gain. It's just a fear mongering created to hijack the agenda. You see, there have been various reports, as rightly said, State Election Commission is also aware, and various reports and Elections Commission's recommendation, the government's view, the opposition party, a formula can be evolved. The first thing is whether we should have it or not. That is the first issue. If we have the willingness to have it, then it is very easy to reach a consensus. You see, BJP has not suddenly become such a big party. It took years and years. And you know that there was a time when we were not having representation in parliament. There was a time when we had only 2 members in parliament. So these things will keep happening. If you're working in the interest of people, people will finally come with you. So that's not an issue. Political necessity will bring a party or throw out a party. It is the people's support that is what finally matters. But we should not, just stop it because we think that is not going to favor political parties. What is in the best interest of the country, that should prevail. And when we talk of electoral list, there is electoral list of the Election Commission, and that electoral list can be used whether it's panchayat elections, assembly elections, always Lok Sabha elections. So why can't this be done? That is the whole issue. And if you agree that this is desirable at least, then a formula can be evolved.
Mr. Aman Panwar, do you want to respond to this?
See, Tanvi, as I've already stated, I think this proposal hits at the core of our democracy, at the core of our constitutional provision.
Don't give such a statement.
Because yes, I'll give you an example, sir. For example, if a BJP chief minister, he's caught in a bribery scam, he's caught in a corruption scandal, then the people of that particular state have either 2 options: be stuck with that government, or even if that government falls, you be stuck with the central government rule. Why?
You cannot have your chief minister unless you have the MLAs.
When the people of this country, sir, can you please calm down? I did not interrupt.
I'm just pointing it out.
When the Constitution provides,
this is not the way our democracy works.
When the Constitution provides that a state, a panchayat, or even the central government will be ruled by a democratically elected government. So if in midway you propose that even if the government falls, or if Mr. Modi is inventing some kind of a formula where he will cut down the tenure of the state governments which are currently going on, I mean, can that be allowed? Not in the wildest imagination of our constitutional framers. So that is completely an aberration. completely an absurd idea that when the power vests with the people, you cannot take away the power from the people, the voters, and vest it into the central government. It is for the people to decide who will rule them.
Can I
It is
respond?
for the people
Yes.
to decide who
Yes,
will
Sudesh
form the
Sharma
government.
can respond, and then I go to Neerja Chaudhary.
Tanvi, you see, spokesperson of a party that is responsible for
Okay,
creating
Aman
problems in
Panwar,
the
let's get a
government.
response in. Yeah.
Spokesperson of a party that is responsible for creating this disharmony in the electoral process by imposing president's rule at the whims and fancies of Congress president and prime minister
Let me not
is
remind
teaching
you
us.
how many
You see,
times
tell me,
Mr. Modi's decisions have been
tell
thwarted
me
by the
how
Supreme
many
Court and
times
the High
we
Court.
have suspended a government or
Let me
dismissed the
not
government because
remind
we
you.
think that the government is not functioning.
Have you forgotten?
The government
have you forgotten
must function
Maharashtra?
any
Have you
party
forgotten
with the spirit of the
Uttarakhand?
constitution,
Have you
isn't it?
forgotten Arunachal?
So that power is always
Have you
there.
forgotten Karnataka?
And you must understand.
Recent
No,
examples.
Karnataka is what?
These
No,
are
no,
the
but-
recent examples.
Come on, can I
No,
give
but
my...
Aman
can I
Panwar,
give
how
my
do you
statement?
compare that
Can I argue?
to what
Can
we
I
are
argue?
saying right now?
Tanvi, you become chief minister because of support
Because
of MLAs. If a chief minister is corrupt,
the
he will go,
DNA,
somebody else will
it
come.
is the
But
DNA
Congress
of the
will not
BJP
get a
that they
chance
do not believe
unless you
in
have support of the
elections.
MLAs.
All they want
This is
is
how democracy
dictatorship.
functions, isn't it? You cannot bring
They
down a
do not
BJP
believe in
government
elections.
just
You have
because
seen
you
this
find
in
one person is
Karnataka.
corrupt.
You have seen
I'm
this
giving you a
in
theoretical
Maharashtra.
example.
You have seen this in
Someone else will
Uttarakhand.
come in his
Okay,
place.
okay,
This is
okay,
the BJP
gentlemen, may I pick,
mismanagement
okay.
of the MLAs, isn't it?
Again a
I
process.
think let's just put a lid on it for now to say yes, this is a contentious issue. If a government falls out of term for whatever reasons, then what is done? Is it right for the to make the people wait? They chose a certain party which is not in power anymore. Will it be right to wait till the next cycle of voting? Neerja Chaudhary, to the other point that was raised here, which is to say, and I think there was also a report. There's a lot of study that has been done. There was a report by the IDFC that did suggest that there is a 77% chance that the Indian voter will vote for the same party for both state and centre when elections are held simultaneously. Now, Mr. Sudesh Sharma says the voter is very intelligent. They can make the difference out and vote accordingly. What's your own sense?
Well, there is this study. There are other studies also that have been done. The study of 77% voters being influenced by it. That is one part of it. More study can be done. But, there is another aspect to it. I sometimes think our elections provide a safety valve. When you have people feeling angry, not enough is being done for them. Their life is full of hardship. It can lead to social conflict. But if they have the right to choose their government and they go for the elections and press that button, some of that anger comes out. Now I'm punishing you. I'm electing somebody else. So that is undergirded our democracy and manage this, inherent conflict in it. Now, if you go in for 5-year term with all the elections clubbed together, does it in any way reduce that safety valve? I'm just asking this question. There are two aspects to what we are discussing. Whether it is desirable, the whether part of it, and secondly, the how part of it. The how is, how do you do it? Do you need to have a constitutional amendment to do it? Does the BJP that wants it have those numbers now? Can it mobilize the support of regional parties and do it? That is the second aspect of it. The other thing I also sometimes think, that while so much money is being spent on our elections, and we all talk about muscle power, money power having hijacked our elections, as a very unfortunate thing happening. But the other side is also, which we need to weigh up. Do we weigh up our democracy with money? Is our democracy not precious enough only be to consider against money? Otherwise, we will say, Parliament mein itna paisa chalane mein itna paisa lagta hai. Should we dispense with Parliament? Those are the finer nuances of that debate. I think we should go into also.
Okay, in fact, because you raised a very interesting point, and if I can just very quickly ask Dr. Qureshi that, and then Sudesh Sharma can come in. Dr. Qureshi, if there are these changes that have to be brought in, constitutionally speaking, the Parliament the government brings in a law, the Parliament debates and passes it, the Constitution amendment is made. What about the concerns of some of the regional parties who may not have a bigger say in the Parliament?
Yeah, exactly. reason we need a consensus is exactly that. So consensus means that the national parties, regional parties, they all sit together and they come to a unanimous or a majority view. So that is what is being discussed. Now the Law Commission had mentioned that some changes will be required in the Constitution. And they had mentioned Article 83 and 85, Article 172 and 174, and the 10 schedules. So all these changes will be required. And of course, the government has perhaps the majority even to bring about those constitutional changes. I would like to suggest that what can we address the problem through an alternative route? For instance, one complaint is that too much of money is spent. All right, put a cap on political parties' expenditure. Just there is a cap on candidates' expenditure. Put a cap on political party expenditure, and you will see the expenditure will come down to 10%. And that is something which the government of the day can do in 5 minutes. Let us think of that. Secondly, the long election. Now, long election can also be conducted in one day from 2 months, 3 months to 33 days. I had once calculated and written about it. The paramilitary forces which are demanded by all political parties in every state, if they can be given in the first place an adequate number, Election Commission can easily do the election in one phase. In Bihar, for instance, instead of 7, we did it in 3 phases. So it can even be done one phase. Just give more battalions. So there are alternative routes also which should be looked at.
Okay, so
and finally, one more point. About the single voter list, that in any case is a good idea. Whether we go for simultaneous election or not, single voter list is a good idea because after all, voter is the same.
Right.
You are a voter, I am a voter, and let there be a common list. Why there are so many variations and differences between two voter lists? Although the same machinery organizes it, the same tahsildar does it. Only thing is there is Election Commission of India for Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha. There is a State Election Commission for the Panchayat. Just because of the supervisory body is different, there are lots of variations in the two electoral rolls, which can be easily sorted out.
Okay, point well taken. That a single voters list is something that we should look at, and maybe that's why the government is also beginning this process by first looking at that aspect. Sudesh Verma wants to make a point, and then the last word to Aman.
Yeah, coming on the point of Nirja ji, you see, of course, it may work as a safety valve in times of crisis, but in a country where you always have elections, that elections generate a lot of hate, and on the contrary, it creates a crisis because you see what happens in Bihar. It's not that the other parts of the country are not impacted by that. Everything is discussed, and the kind of mudslinging that goes on, the kind of conflict that comes in society, that would also be rested for some time. People will get a chance after 5 years when they feel that some party or government has not done well, they will vote them out. But all the time, after every 6 months, you have elections, and the country appears to be in election mode, and that needs to be taken care of. And that is precisely in that context, besides the issue of development and expenditure, that it has been spoken, and that should be seen as a positive way. It's not that BJP is trying to impose something. It's not that. We want a consensus to evolve. And why should we be scared because you think that you are weak? Maybe you become very strong through this process. The country has to gain finally, and it is in that context the whole issue has to be seen.
Okay, Aman Panwar, respond to that, please.
See, he still has not responded to the fact that what if the government falls in the first year?
Yeah.
Already it has been given. Already a lot of suggestions have come.
There are multiple suggestions.
I complete, sir? I did not interrupt.
No way. If you have not, seen the reports, I can't help. Many suggestions have been given.
May I complete? May I complete? Sir, the point here today is, on one hand, you say that this leads to expenditure. And the dichotomy here is that at the same time, you have introduced electoral bonds. And under the electoral bonds, you do not even disclose who's funding your campaign. So while the argument for the expenditure is being made, I mean, just look at the BJP. They completely refused before the Supreme Court to say that we will make the information public with respect to electoral bonds as to who is giving the funding to the political party.
Issue altogether.
Yes, I don't know, Mr. Aman Panwar, why are you raising that aspect here right now?
That issue has been discussed.
Unless, of course, the concern for the Congress party is that you don't have money.
All these arguments are being made by the Prime Minister.
The argument is of Vikas. The country has to grow faster. Elections are acting as an impediment in growth.
The intention
is the reason.
is to kill democracy, which we will not allow, Mr.
Hey, come on.
Sharma.
We never imposed emergency.
Keep this, of course.
I think both sides. 1 minute, please.
During emergency.
I think we're out of time, so I'm going to thank all of our panelists for joining us. But those opposing it, and including the Congress party or anybody else, need to look at this a little more seriously. And rather than simply saying that these are attempts to attack our democratic values and systems, maybe there is a way out. We can only arrive at that kind of a solution when there is conversation. There is no denying the fact, viewers, that we do seem to be in a constant election mode. Month after month, and it's not just the general election of the state elections, and there are local body elections, and we have by-polls. Then we, every year, every few months, there is election happening somewhere. Now, that is not just a waste of money and machinery, also a waste of time. Because our politicians are always in a campaign mode. That's one reason I do believe we need to look at streamlining the system. If it is twice in 5 years, or even the possibility that has been suggested earlier, once every year. Whatever elections are due, happen at the same time, once every year. Let's fix that time and then hold all your elections together so that for the rest of the year, we can concentrate on other issues. I am glad that the conversation has been reignited. I hope the government, if they decide to make any changes, do take in the views and arrive at a consensus with all the stakeholders before making the changes. But let the conversation begin for one nation, one election.